different. To which the reporter says, well, let me quote from the ruling. The order properly requires the government to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia and his release from custody in El Salvador. So are you facilitating his release? Trump's response, I'll leave that to my lawyers. I give them no instructions. They feel that the order said something very much different from what you're saying, but I leave that to my lawyers if they want, and that would be the Attorney General of the United States and the people that represent the country. I don't make the decision. So you're not someone who represents the country. You're not someone who is involved. You were sitting there with Bukele. You're saying that your lawyers told you something different than when this Time magazine reporter literally just read the order to you? Donald Trump is then asked about the bond markets imploding, and Donald Trump said, were you worried that the bond markets have been imploding? Trump goes, I wasn't worried. And then the reporter goes, well, what did your advisors tell you, though? You were in the Oval Office with Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick. What did they tell you to convince you to lift the reciprocal tariffs and do a 90-day pause if you weren't worried about the bond market? Trump goes, they didn't tell me that. I did that. Well, then what made you make the decision? It wasn't for that reason. Question. It wasn't because of the bond market? Answer. No, it wasn't for that reason. I'm doing that until we come up with numbers that I want to come up with. I've met with a lot of countries. I've talked on the telephone. I don't even want them to come in. What kind of word salad is that? You don't want the countries to come in. You want to come up with other numbers than the numbers that you had just come out with on what you called Liberation Day. Like, we all realize what we're reading here is absolutely deranged stuff. It's why I wanted to give it more attention than I think it's getting right now, that we actually look at these words and see that they're deranged. These are the rantings and ravings of a lunatic. So then the Time magazine reporter says, well, are you going to call President Xi Jinping of China if he doesn't call you? No. Question. You won't? Answer. Nope. Has he called you yet? Yep. When did he call you? He's called, okay? And I don't think that's a sign of weakness on his behalf. Question. But you would think it's a sign of weakness if you called him? I don't. I just look. Question. Well, what did Xi Jinping say to you? Look, if people want to, well, we all want to make deals, but I am this giant store. I'm a giant store. It's a giant, beautiful store, and everybody wants to go shopping there. And on behalf of the American people, I own the store. Okay. I own it, and I set the prices, and I'll say, if you want to shop here, this is what you have to pay. Okay. This period of uncertainty, you think it's going to be over in 3 to 4 weeks? Answer. I don't think there's any uncertainty there. The only thing, they have an option. They don't have to shop here. They can go someplace else, but there aren't too many places they can go. You understand what I mean, though. For some reason, the reporter goes, sure. But your Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said that this situation with China is unsustainable. Answer. Oh, I agree. You mean the way it is now? Question. Yeah. Or the way it was before I got here? Question. The current moment. Your Treasury Secretary, Donald, believes it's unsustainable. Answer. Well, no. They won't do any business here because at 145%, it's going to be very rare that you see business. Question. Okay, you said you had conversations with President Xi Jinping of China. Your conversations with Xi Jinping have made you feel like we're moving towards a more productive answer. Oh, there's a number at which they feel comfortable. Yeah, but you can't let them make $1 trillion from us. You can't let them make $750 billion from us. See, that's really what's not sustainable. When China makes $1 trillion or $1.1 trillion, when we have almost $2 trillion worth of, I call it loss. Some people don't, but a lot of it is loss. I say when you have a trade deficit of $2 trillion, I consider that a loss. Pause. He's making up a fake conversation with Xi Jinping here that never happened at All. Xi Jinping through the China embassy said no conversations, stop misrepresenting what's happening. There have been no communications about tariffs with the Trump regime at all, and certainly not from the Xi Jinping level, is what China has said over and over again. But then Donald Trump also, and you'll see what he says in a moment, where he claims, even though there's 193 countries, that he's already completed deals with 200 countries, Donald Trump says. We'll get there in a moment. So the question is, so your trade advisor, Peter Navarro, says 90 deals in 90 days is possible. So we're now 13 days. That's when this interview was taken. We're now 13 days into the point from when you lifted the discounted reciprocal tariffs. Let's be clear. They're not reciprocal. They're a made up formula. There's 0 deals so far. Mr. President, why is there no deal so far? Answer, no. There are many deals. We've done deals. Okay, question. So when are these deals going to be announced? Answer. You have to understand. I'm dealing with all the companies, very friendly countries. We're meeting with China. We are doing fine with everybody, but ultimately I've made all the deals. Question. But not one has been announced yet. When are you going to announce them? Answer. I've made 200 deals. Question. You've made 200 deals? 100%. Question. I'm just curious. Why don't you announce these deals that you say you've solidified? Answer. I would say over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we're finished, by the way. You're finished? We'll be finished. Okay, then the next question is, you know better than anyone that the President of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. At the same time, it seems like you're expanding the power of the presidency. Why do you think you need more power? This is a new line of questioning. And Trump goes, well, I don't feel I'm expanding it. I think I'm using it as it was meant to be used. I feel that we've had a very successful presidency in 100 days. We've had people writing, this was the best first month and the best second month and really the best third month. But that you won't know about it for a little while because it takes a little time in transition. You know, we're resetting a table. We're losing $2 trillion a year on trade. And you can't do that. Okay, according to the Fox poll, your approval rating amongst independents is only 27% approval. You have the worst approval of any presidency in modern times. But you see why I call this a Ponzi scheme presidency and a rug pull? Because the only thing that Trump's good at in life is fraud, right? He's a felon. He's a fraud. He's a sexual abuser. Bad person. Bad. Vile. Piece of trash. And so what he does is just lies and lies and lies and lies. And I think when you read the transcript like I'm doing now, you can really see it even more clear. Question. Okay, let's focus on what's happening right now, Mr. President, because answer. We took in billions of dollars. We had no inflation. Now, if you take a look, the price of groceries are down. The price of energy is down. Question. But Mr. President, inflation remains pretty much the same. It's actually higher. And the IMF is saying it's going up. No, Eric's the reporter. You can't say that. That's what they think. Because so far, what I thought is right. What I say is right. I've been right about it. Okay, but Donald, 401ks are down. The Atlanta Federal Reserve says our economy is contracting, negative 2.2% during Q1. Well, they may have said that, but so far I've been right. If you look at all of the years that I've been doing this, I've been right on things. You're gonna have the wealthiest country we've ever had, and you're gonna have an explosion upward in the not too distant future. You know, I've been here now for 3 months. I inherited eggs. I inherited groceries. I inherited energy. By that, do you mean that we were energy independent, that we had GDP growth that was expected to be 3.5–4%? Had you done nothing at all, that we created 16.2 million jobs, that there were 40,000 infrastructure projects, that unemployment was at all-time lows, that America was leading the world in GDP growth? Is that? No, I don't think that's what you meant. You, Donald Trump, have been a failure and have caused inflation to go up when inflation was going down finally under former President Biden. And Donald Trump, and the question is, okay, let's talk about tariffs a little more. You want companies to build and make goods here in America? Not in all cases. There are some products I really don't want to make here. Like what? Like t-shirts, Mr. Trump? I can't give you a list because I actually have a list. But if you want, I could give it